Okay, hey, good evening. Tuesday night Bible study. Isn't it great? We are just having a super time here. And I tell you what, we are in the book of Judges, chapter 17 and verse 1, all the way through chapter 18 and verse 31. And that's what we've got scheduled. And so that's why I am starting here almost on time. I didn't get an outline done. Yeah, been doing that lately, haven't I?
I'm the excuse.
No.
I kept him from doing his job.
It was.
We got
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what. You have paper? Do you have paper? Number 1 is called the introduction of this character by the name of Micah. All right, I could get the board out and write on it, but I'm not going to do that. So, yeah, there you go. But number 1, start in chapter 17, verses 1 through 6, the introduction of Micah. And in chapter 17, 7 through 13, is the corruption of the Levitical priesthood. So, that takes the first 13 verses. And that's chapter 17. So we got 2 points there. All right?
Okay, say the 2 points again.
Number 1, introduction of Micah, verses 1 through 6. Number 2, corruption of the Levitical priesthood. That's from verses 7 through 13. Number 3, and it's chapter 18, the whole chapter. It's called the tribe of Dan, dealing with Micah and the Levite. So that is our breakdown. So 2 chapters in one night. 2 for the price of 1, folks. You can't beat it, can you? So anyway, good to see you guys. We held John, and we kept him from going on. He's supposed to be at his parents' house. His father is there, and he was going to say happy birthday there and be there a few days. Well, we held him back for ransom. We didn't get the money, and so he's still here. We cut the ropes just a while ago to get him over here. Actually, what we did to hold him was just punch a nail in his tire, and he couldn't go any further.
We need more people, John.
And we're gonna consider some way of keeping John here in Jeff City, for I don't know, maybe years, just possibly, because everybody likes John, and on Facebook he's known as John. So if you want to get on Facebook with John, if you're not there with him, look up John. It's John Mullen, right? John. Did you guys get that? And he always has something very interesting that you want to read on there. So he'll be glad to entertain you. Was that okay for me to say that, John?
I agree.
Well, after I've already held you back from
You're
going down further.
Yeah. I'm going to get all kinds of friends requests.
Yep, you are going to get a lot now. Anyway, I never figured out what the second John was about. I know your last name, but anyway, maybe you'll tell me later. I'm sure you probably would rather not tell me now.
Okay.
But
It's pretty simple.
okay, what is it?
Well, my mom used to call me John.
Oh, well,
But also I have a cousin named John Mullen. So, it's kind of confusing. Yeah. John Mullen. So.
well, we used to call you Sean Mullen.
Did you?
Yeah, didn't we? Didn't we, Karen? Sean.
Did you?
I never did. I thought it was a joke or something. I don't know.
This is a misunderstanding when he was born.
It was probably my mom trying to pronounce it.
That's what it was.
Well, Sean is Irish, in case you guys haven't caught that. You're not believing that, are you? I didn't think so.
All right, I kind of almost did. I was like, I didn't look
That could be.
You know what? Hey, next stranger people.
All right. Okay. And Judges. We just finished the study of Samson. a rather interesting story. We had quite an interesting Bible study last week, so we gained a lot out of that. It was incredible, and we thank the Lord for that. So you look at what Samson was doing. He's considered a judge. God elected him to be that judge of Israel, and he did what God called him to do, even though he was very Canaanized, as he womanized ladies, and at the same time we know that he broke Nazirite vows and a lot of God's law. But honestly, in Hebrews 11, he was a man of faith, and God uses people despite who they are and what their sin is. Now I want to tell you, when you get into chapter 17 and 18 and the remaining chapters, 5 of them left, and as we have gone through Judges, we've seen some very despicable things. We haven't seen anything yet. Because now, after several hundred years since Joshua had died, and there have been generations, they've come, they've gone, the nation has become more Canaanized than ever before. 6 times we see that the people forgot about God, and then they become so under, oppression, that they call out to God finally after many, many years. And God does raise up judges 6 times to deliver his people. And so on and on, it kept doing that. The Israelites have enemies throughout all the land that they were supposed to have had, and they did conquer, but yet because of their lifestyles and what they did and running away from God, they were mostly under oppression. But God would every once in a while send judges, 20, 40 years, that they would have a time of peace. But you know who the real enemy was of Israel? Israel. That's really what the problem was. You know, our enemy is our flesh. Worst enemy that we really have is us. We can see, though, how Israel has fallen so far. So in these final 5 chapters, we see there is no judge here that's spoken of, no king in Israel. So everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And that's what you see so often through the rest of this book, which is not much left. And the religion that they had is really reduced to mere tradition. It's really what it was. They had profession of faith, maybe. That was at best of what they had. The people of God failed to follow his commands. They fall to deeper levels of depravity further on down. And the Israelites long ago had already stopped determining what was right and what was wrong as compared to God's word, right? God's law, Yahweh's law. So long ago, the people of Israel forgot about the miraculous things that happened at the Red Sea and the Passover and getting out of the bondage of Egypt. So you keep taking it back. They forgot about the covenant promises of God. They just forgot everything. And they went their own way and adopted Canaanite practices as they forgot about God even more. Israel was in a deplorable condition. They were deplorable. That was what deplorable was. And it was nothing less than a national apostasy. They had turned totally against God, really. And you had a failure of the Levitical priest. They didn't teach the people anything. They were no longer doing that, and they just emulated the Canaanites. It's really what they totally blended in. And this is why God used Samson, because if he used Samson, he can keep them from bleeding right on in to the pagan society that is there, and you'd have a lost nation. And the promise of the Messiah has got to come through Israel, has to come through the tribe of Judah, from David's loins, and that's in the future. So God uses a Samson, despite Samson, and he does it keep them from Canaanizing. He gets them to where they were becoming very comfortable where they were at. And so God sends Samson to cause all sorts of problems. He wreaked havoc with the Philistines. That's what God wanted. That's what he used him for. That's right. But this downer of a message is exactly what we need to hear. We think, oh, we need to hear the good news. But a downer message like this is good because apart from Christ, we can do nothing. And without Christ, we are nothing, can do nothing. And sometimes when you look at the struggles that Samson had, that others had, you know what it's saying? This is us. Because we struggle. And then the question is how do we remain faithful to Christ in the midst of a pagan generation? That's where we're at. Just like Israel was. You have believers in there. How do we remain faithful to Christ in the way that it is? So how do we carry on this Christian life that we know we're supposed to live without losing interest in the fight that we have against indwelling sin? How do we keep following Christ without losing interest? A lot of people drop out. You guys have seen them, one after another, dropping like flies, because it becomes too hard. It becomes too difficult. It's much easier to follow the Canaanites' way, and they have a lot more better stuff out there. It's more exciting, more fun. Why follow God's law if it's that stringent? Seems like it is. Well, it's not. Because of Christ, we should want to do those things. So it's an ongoing fight, isn't it? You know what? I think their problem was complacency. Do you know what? I think that's the problem of the church today. Complacent. Just becoming satisfied with the way it is and not really putting any effort into our walk. It's mighty easy just to kind of go along with the world and not let us upset anything at all. So Judges actually relates to us and the time that we live in. I can't see a more timely book than the time we live in right now in the book of Judges. And if I was in another book, I'd probably say the same thing, wouldn't I? Because it's all timely. It's all going right along parallel with our times and their times. And sin is sin. We have a lot of different ways to sin today. A lot easier to sin. But man, it's still the same. There goes my throat. So, thank you guys for joining us tonight. And we'll see you next week. Somebody's praying for my voice here tonight? Thank you. Okay, let's, hey, Avell, can you read the first 6 verses of chapter 17 there?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
It says, Now a man named Micah from the hill country of Ephraim said to his mother, The 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, and about which I heard you utter a curse, I have that silver with me. I took it. Then his mother said, The Lord bless you, my son. When he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother, she said, I solemnly consecrate my silver to the Lord, for my son to make a carved image and a cast idol. I will give it back to you. So he returned the silver to his mother, and she took 200 shekels of silver, and gave them to a silversmith, who made them into an image. Who made them into an image and the idol, and they were put in Micah's house. Now this man Micah had a shrine, and he made an ephod and some idols, and instead installed one of his sons and his priests. In those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit. Well,
That's good right there. That's the theme. That very last verse you read, verse 6. That's what sets up the rest of the book. Matter of fact, I think it sets up the whole book. But this is bizarre. This is a bizarre story. We're now introduced to Micah. That's our first point there, right? And it's a picture. It's a warning to us of how sinful we can really be. Now, I'm not saying that we did and do these kind of things, but it always comes back because it's easy to pick on Micah here. This is not the prophet Micah. Okay, this is a different Micah here. But this 17:1, it opens up with an Ephraimite family, pretty well-to-do, I'd say. And this family is pretty significant to the story that we get to here tonight. Micah's name is who is like Yahweh. Yah. Usually you have that AH or you'll have a YAH in it, like it's dealing with God. Yahweh, or people heard of Jehovah. There's your Yah again. But anyway, El, and that's dealing with God in a general way. It's like us saying God, right? God, El Gibor. Anyway, yeah. So you'll see that whether something can mean God Almighty, that kind of thing, and it might be a capital G, little letter O, little letter D. But sometimes when you see or when you think of Lord, but with the capital letters, who's that? Yeah, as Yahweh, right? His personal name, his covenant name, the self-existent. And so that Yah is right there. And so the question is who is like Yahweh? And what's the answer? There's no one like Yahweh. There's no one like him. So we get into a little bit of a glimpse of the character involved here in this section. And you have Micah, and you have Micah's mother. And you notice that she had 1,100 pieces of silver. What happened to her 1,100 pieces of silver?
I don't think he took it.
Her son took it. Stole it. He's a thief.
Right.
He's a dirty, rotten thief, is what he is. And he learns about a curse, though. His mother had some kind of a curse on it, but on whoever took that. Oh, now he's scared. So guess what? He's scared, and so maybe a little superstition going on there. Anyway, he goes up, takes the 1,100 pieces of silver and said, "Hey, I took that." It's like, I'm sorry. Why did he do it? Because of the curse. He didn't have any intention of doing that, but he learns of that. He confesses, returns the money back, and Micah's mother is proud of him.
Right.
Figure that one out.
Didn't expect much from him.
And instead of cursing him, what does she do? She blesses him.
Weird.
That is kind of strange, isn't it? Well, it just gets more strange. It's almost like he did some kind of noble behavior. We have parents today, when their kids do terrible things, it's like either they ignore it or actually they might even encourage them to keep on doing it. I've seen Christian parents have Christian kids that are doing horrible things that are not right, and you know what they do? They say, "Well, how nice, how sweet. He's a good kid."
I think they do that to try to keep them around and not scare them away.
Yeah, be their
Like,
friend.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of,
I think you got a good point.
right? I mean, there's a lot of parents who are like, well, I'd rather, and then, like, there's parents that, they know their kids are gonna drink, so they say, well, it might as well drink with me. And that sounds ridiculous, right? But say, I know that where they're at, I know they're safe here in the house.
You're going to drink anyway, so you might as well drink.
Yeah,
And it's just saying, hey, it's okay to drink,
Right, that kind of mentality,
Oh, and then you have a girlfriend. Well, you might as well just go ahead and just have fun here with her. It's a lot better than, maybe some other place and you get in all sorts of
Right.
trouble and stuff. Right? That's kind of the idea. And I think she wants to, she would like to keep him around. So she blesses him as though he had engaged in good behavior. And in the name of Yahweh, it says, and his mother said, "Blessed be my son by the Lord." by capital letters, Lord, by Yahweh. And this is Mom here, right? You know what? I think this is indicating that Micah's mother thinks that she's a worshiper of Yahweh. Well, let's see what goes on here. Verse 3, we see this deplorable condition of this family here. And there's a list of violations of God's law right here in a few verses. Micah is a thief, no doubt about it, right? He also has not honored his mother. I mean, that's a pretty good sin. We're getting the Ten Commandments broken all over the place here. And then we see that she's going to give a portion of this to who? To the priest? To the religion? She's not going to give a portion of that. What does she do? She gives a portion of that to him, and a lot of it is going to be of the portion that she's going to give is for an idol. And she should have taken that and at least give it as a dedication to the Lord, but instead to the priest.
What
or
priest?
bad anyway, who are supposed to represent the Lord. But everybody does what's right in their own eyes.
I feel so sorry for these people. It's so hard for us. We have the Holy Spirit. We have the Word of God.
That's all we need.
We are surrounded by
we need people.
Christians, and we still screw up.
Isn't that sad?
And these guys got nothing. They got nothing. They got no Holy Spirit. They got no teachers. They got no writings. They got nothing.
But they have what's right in their own eyes.
They have promises.
This is so far removed from Joshua and Moses and the miracles, and I mean, if you look, this is just heartbreaking.
And this is where it's gotten.
Yeah.
God gave them everything they needed. He had given them even judges, and of course the priests are there to teach the people. They aren't doing it. The people have no desire to obey God. And so that's where we're at.
Generations of doing this, it just takes one generation to stop.
That's right.
Before the next generation has no idea
Right.
what's going on.
Well, I'm glad
Would you say they have gotten lost?
Yeah, because after Samson, everything that led up to Samson, they were already integrating with the Philistines. And then you have the time after Samson, and they're just as lost as they were before.
But remember, but God.
Yes, but God.
Well, and there's a remnant here somewhere.
Yeah, there is.
There
There
always
is always
is
a
a
remnant.
remnant.
That's that, but
Yeah.
God.
Gee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just,
I wonder how that remnant feels.
oh
Like,
my.
I wonder how often that remnant is like, you guys are messing up.
Oh, man.
And they're like, who are you to tell me? Who, Mr. Holy? Like,
Yeah.
look at you.
Mr.
Religious.
Ooh, feudal Abraham. Look at
Abraham,
position.
I think it's that when you say that, all those years building that ark, and
Yes.
everybody ridiculed
Mocking
Yeah.
him.
Oh,
Just,
yeah.
Somewhere, I think it's in Hebrews, I don't know if it's 11 or 9, but they talk about Lot and how around him vexed his righteous soul.
yes,
Right.
that's actually
Right.
John.
Is it
It's
John?
in John. I just got done reading John. John 1, 2, and 3. I believe it's in there. In one of those
I just
two.
like that line, vexed his righteous
Yeah.
soul.
But he didn't
Pretty good.
leave.
Yeah. I don't know why he stayed.
Eventually.
Yeah, like he had a choice.
Oh, a couple of angels.
Wow.
Okay, well she gives
Yeah.
this silver, about 5 pounds worth of it, to her son for one purpose of creating an idol. Here's a Hebrew woman blessing her son, who is a thief, all at the same time, in the name of Yahweh, and then instructing that her own silver be used to create an idol. And she sees no problem whatsoever in doing this in the name of God. Make an idol. Micah, and where are we at here? We're right at the top of the 10 Commandments, aren't we? Make no graven image. Have no other gods before me. Micah establishes a pagan shrine now in his own home. He has his own pagan shrine there in his house. He creates his own ephod, priestly garment of what it is, and then he takes one of his own sons and makes him a what? A priest. What's right in his own eyes. I mean, they had the Levites as priests, but here we are. Micah establishes his own religious center here. This is the church of Micah, is what has been established. And I guess, he thinks that he's honoring God. Israel had no military, political leader. Israel had no prophet, no king, as you're saying there, Penny. They had priests, but they didn't have priests who were really teaching the nation. So the people would actually attend some kind of form of worship, but it was reflecting the pagan culture that was around them. That's really what they had adopted. And they did what not was commanded in Scripture. So there's
sounds
point
like a lot
one.
of churches today.
Oh, you got it. I was going to say that. I didn't. I refrained finally. I'm glad you did, though.
We say it though,
Yeah.
we know it.
We know. We see that, don't we?
Yeah.
Well,
It's happening all around us.
And the whole thing here is they know, like, what is it, Romans? Everybody knows there's a God. There's a creator God. Everybody, look around, you can tell, And that's, that's what I see them doing.
It proceeds to finally making
They're looking,
idols,
they're
their
trying
own
to
gods.
find something, and so they build it.
They have God in their own image. And so rather than taking what he says, how to worship him and who he is, they
But
make
did they
it
even
fit
know?
what they're comfortable with.
Did they even know what he said?
Probably not.
If they wanted to,
if
they
you
would
look
have.
further down, it talks about the Levite traveling through. Well, sure, there were priests there were Levites there, but where were they?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at that.
Did they have a temple someplace? Did they have,
Yeah,
where's she gonna?
Shiloh is where they are at, and that's where the tabernacle is at.
There is a
at this time.
tabernacle here.
Mm-hmm. At Shiloh.
Okay.
There's that one spot.
Okay.
Remember David brings
All
up
right.
to Jerusalem.
I
that
feel a
fully
little
was-
less sorry for him.
Yeah.
Dennis, is there a significance in her referencing Yahweh instead of just?
Well,
to
she
me
knew.
it seems like she's
knows who
invoking the one true
yeah.
God, right?
Exactly.
But she's not doing actions of someone who's so.
There we go. She's breaking the very
She
first
knows
the
she
commandments.
Yeah.
decided to do it her way instead.
Or a better way.
But that's right, John. She's used. How many people say, "I believe in God.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe in Jesus. I
But-
believe in the virgin birth. I believe that
but-
he's coming back. I believe the Bible," and yet their actions don't even line up exactly what you're talking about, John, with what the Word of God says. Though they're not living that,
They're not
and they do other things that you can go, "Man, where does it?" I thought that person was a Christian.
Yep.
Yeah, it makes me think that, what she's saying to be done here is being done in the name of the one true God, and
Mm-hmm.
their
Mhm.
actions that are not
But how did she
pleasing
link-
to the one true God.
Yeah, but then how do you link that to what they did?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
you
yeah.
should know that's not,
Right, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
yeah, you
it's
should
just,
know that that's not how he operates.
Well, sometimes it may seem like you're legalistic, let's say, and to somebody else, and they say, "Well, I don't really believe that. You're taking it a little bit too far." Well, that can be. You can be legalistic, but let's say if you're just following the Word of God and something that most people would say, "Yeah, that's the way to do it," but yet people say, "Well, I have my own idea. I have my own way of worshiping God." Is it lining up with this?
Going out in the woods.
Well,
Can I blend? Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm gonna worship God what makes me feel like I'm closer to him by doing it my way.
but it's a direct affront because of the graven image, it's an
Right.
idol.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
But
So I mean, I'm sure they would understand that
They
could
would
make an
know
idol.
some. They would know
Right?
these
I mean, everybody-
commands.
Yeah. So it's not like well, she wasn't sure, but hey, yeah, maybe God will like this or something like that. No, I mean, it should be a direct affront. I'm making an idol, you
Exactly.
But these
Kinda
other
like what
people are
Aaron
doing it that way, and it looks kind of cool.
know. Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
neighbors are doing something there, and that's kind of neat looking.
All right. Well, let's kick this into gear. Are you ready? From 7 to the rest of this chapter is point number 2, and it's the corruption of the Levitical priesthood. And we can say, what happened to those guys? What were they doing? Well, we'll get a little bit of an idea here. Now, there was a young man from Bethlehem, in Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite. This guy's really blessed, isn't he? Who's Jesus going to come through? The tribe. Judah. Where was he born? Bethlehem. This guy's a Levite. He's a priest, and he was staying there. Well, I can't say he's an out-and-out priest yet. He's a Levite. By the way, I want you to pay attention. It was a young man. And usually when we're thinking of young man, not one who is of the age of 30. To be a priest, to start with being a priest, you had to be 30. That was a number, a nice round number to be equivalent to that. So he's not that, but he's going to be taken as that. So that's kind of key right there. Then the man departed from the city, from Bethlehem, in Judah. It's funny, it's repeated again, isn't it? Probably something to that. To stay wherever he might find a place. And as he made his journey, he came to the hill country of Ephraim, a little bit north of Judah there, in the hill country, to the house of Micah. Now, we've already been introduced to Micah, right? Micah set up this house of Micah, the house of prayer, the house of, whatever, you've heard of those, the house of Micah, with his shrine and his own priest. But that priest is not a Levite. I'll give you a little clue there, right? Micah said to him, "Oh, where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I'm a Levite." Oh, from Bethlehem in Judah. Oh, and I'm going to stay wherever I may find a place, wherever I wind up. Whoever can take me in. Micah said to him, "Dwell with me and be a father and a priest to me, and I will give you 10 pieces of silver a year." That's really good. Remember, this is a pretty well-to-do family. She had 1,100 pieces of silver, and here's, I'll give you 10 pieces of silver a year. You'll get paid a suit of clothes and your maintenance. You'll be taken care of very well. So the Levite went in. The Levite agreed to live with the man, and the young man became to him like one of his sons. When he was saying, "Be a father to me," it's like, you teach me.
Because he's a Levite.
Right.
He's expecting him to have some sort of wisdom and knowledge that he himself doesn't have.
Exactly. Even though he's older, he could have been the father, but that's the right idea. Exactly. Okay, so Micah consecrated the Levite.
Now, how does he do that?
I don't know. He set him apart here.
Mine
Clean
says
him
that
up.
Micah ordained the Levite, and I'm thinking,
That's really a very good translation.
how does he do
I like
that?
that word. He
Who is
ordained.
Micah that he can ordain a Levite?
Yeah.
He's nobody.
Exactly.
But hey, he's got the shrine.
He's got the
Levite
shine.
would have been
He's
like,
got some-
this is
He's got the idol.
You've
Got the
some
money.
things running around there. Yeah.
You
Got the
think the
guard,
Levite would have been
yeah.
like, this is not right. I'm supposed to bless you since I'm the Levite.
Yeah.
But here you are giving me
Priest is
authority
Levite, that's what
or
it
to
says.
train you.
Right.
But he went for this deal.
Well, the young man became his priest and lived in the house of Micah. Then Micah said, "Now I know that Yahweh," there's our little tetragrammaton there, "will prosper me, seeing I have a Levite as priest." So he says, son, his own son,
Not a priest anymore.
you're going to have to move over. We got a real priest in there now. Now remember, he's not even of age to be a priest, but he's a Levite.
Got a golden teeth. When you coming in?
Oh, he could have been the age of you two guys.
Yeah.
You're not 30 yet, though.
No.
Oh, you are? Wow.
He would make those leap. He'd be okay.
You guys just keep getting younger all the time. You know, as I get older, those young people, they get younger. Can't figure that one out.
You see those 12-year-olds drive
30 is the
cars.
new 20.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I mean, to me, like high schoolers, sometimes like ninth graders, like freshmen look like almost like sixth graders.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens, you know. Like, wow, they look younger than they did before.
That's funny. I like that. What we got here? In the next chapter, we learn that his name is Jonathan. Okay, so this is Jonathan, who's now the priest.
He's that young guy.
Levitical priesthood. Yeah, he's the young guy. And it becomes completely corrupt here, seen in several ways. And, you know, priests were not supposed to be consecrated until 30, and they would be too young serving in that capacity. Priests were to serve where they were directed. But he just kind of directed himself, kind of wandered around till whoever take him in. So he was supposed to have a calling and then be put in a place where that he was directed to. So Jonathan gets an offer that he cannot refuse. This is about as bad as it gets. Not only does Micah hire Jonathan to replace his son, it would sure look a lot better for a priest of a Levitical nature to be the priest instead of an Ephraimite. So the Levitical priesthood is centered in Shiloh, as we said, and that's the tabernacle was established. Micah sees nothing here wrong with establishing this kind of church, his own church, creating his own priestly ephod, and also his house with idols, right? I mean, you got idols there that were very expensive, and he hires his own personal priest. This place is really taking a step up now, boy. We got the Levitical priest, and we have this idols all around the place. I mean, this is really something that looks legitimate. And then claiming Yahweh will bless him for doing this. This is what I mean when I say the people of Israel are thoroughly Canaanized. That's why they can accept idolatry, because that's all they did.
But that's what we
They're
hear
in
all
that
the time
land.
on the TV. We hear this about those people about being healed and everything. And they're going to be rich. I mean, they're over there get a holy cloth. You know, send some money to my ministry. That's the same charlatan that this guy's doing.
Some holy water.
Yeah, whatever their latest gimmick to get people.
Holy
to give them
handkerchiefs.
money. Yeah. Did I get an address? Get that milk well? Yeah. I'm still waiting. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm still waiting for
ready?
my
Chapter 18.
Yeah.
Here's part number 3. The tribe of Dan comes along, and this is associated with chapter 17. We were just set up for the next part. Oh, it gets better, folks. It's dealing with Micah and the Levite, and now the tribe of Dan, who are, you have two kinds of people there. You have the spies, and then you have the army. And you remember the spies that Israel had, you know, during the time of Moses. So anyway, you're going to see these spies come along. We're not sure how, but the Danite spies know that Jonathan's a Levite. So let's read along. In those days, there was no king of Israel, and in those days, the tribe of the Danites. If you don't have a king, you don't have somebody leading you, make sure that there is, we keep tight in this. Everybody is just, out in different thoughts, different ways of thinking. If you don't come together and assemble and make sure that we dot our I's and cross the T's, we've got this thing together. That's what's so important about a church. That's why they say confessions. John, I think of the great church that you'd gone to, First Pres in Columbia. Were they confessional? Yeah. I mean, they held to a body of truth. And they would either, say it, repeat it together. We do that on the. Did they do anything like that too?
Oh, yeah.
To say it all? loud, and so
Yeah.
we're not that odd in that. We just didn't make that
No.
up, right? Okay.
No, most of the Reformed churches I go to,
Thank
it's a common practice, yes.
Yeah. So we're not that weird, right? Okay.
Well.
Well,
I was about to say.
anyway.
That's right, that's not bad.
Okay, Jonathan is a Levite, and the Danite spies come there, right? What did I just stop in the middle of a verse? What did I do?
You're halfway through 1:18 and you stopped.
In verse 1?
Yes.
There's no king of Israel. Okay, and in those days the tribe of the Danites were seeking an inheritance for themselves to live in. For until that day, an inheritance had not been allotted to them as a possession among the tribes of Israel. And we'll get to that. So the sons of Dan sent from their family 5 men out of their whole number, valiant men from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land, to search it. They said to them, "Go search the land." And they came to the hill country of Ephraim, to the house of Micah. We know all about that. And lodged there. People like to stop at his place, don't they? When they were near the house, I wonder if he had some kind of idol out there in front to adopt, maybe people on in. Or...
Yeah, they can see neon signs and something.
Anyway,
Did you say his family was kind of well-to-do anyway,
Right.
so maybe it's just
I think so. Maybe a bigger type house and such, yeah. And when they were near the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young man. I'm not sure why, the Levite. And they turned aside there and said to him, "Who brought you here? And what are you doing in this place? And what do you have here?" They're looking around. They're looking at him. He's probably got his ephod on and everything. He's a priest. He's a Levite. They recognize that he is. And they look at all this stuff going on. They're going, they question him. Man, they're giving him the whole bit, aren't they? They're giving him every question they can think of. And he said to them, "Thus, and so has Micah done to me. And he has hired me, and I have become his priest." Well, he didn't say, "Micah gave me a deal that I couldn't refuse." He said, "Micah did this to me." He's starting to go, "Wow, what's the deal with the questions here?" They said to him, "Inquire of God, please. You're a priest. Go ask that we may know whether our way in which we are going will be prosperous." See, they're going to go take some land, right? The priest said to them, "Go in peace. Your way in which you're going has the Lord's approval." Let's back up. Let's take those 6 verses. Okay, you have, if this priest was willing to work for Micah, we're going to see that as time goes on here, that maybe he could be something for them. And that's really where it's kind of getting at. But here you have, there's no king, there's nobody, keeping them all together in their thinking. And the 5 men come, they're spies, they're going to go search the land. The Danites actually were to have their own property like everybody else did. Each tribe was. They didn't really take it. And here they are, and they're saying, "Now we're going to go get it. We're going to go and get our inheritance." This is hundreds of years later. It should have been done and taken care of. But they didn't do it.
What I
In
find
that sense.
interesting is that kind of what you said earlier, that he's a Levite and they were supposed to be appointed to serve. They had a purpose and a task, and this guy's wandering around
Highest bidder kind
yeah,
of thing,
just looking for a purpose because their society and the culture there has become so depraved that his purpose is no longer like there. So it's like his whole goal to be a Levite, to serve God and to be a part of that, so that when people come to him, he could really go to God and ask God so that he can give the message back to the people who came to him to ask in the first place. And here these people are asking him to do his Levitical job, his legitimate job. And that's where it seems like they're confused as to what is he doing?
Yeah.
Like they recognize his voice, that it's different, so there must be something different about this guy's voice that makes them go, "This guy's a Levite." And what is he doing here with all these idols?
Yeah, it's
and
like they
with all
took it
this-
as bizarre. but
They knew
it's a-
that was not right,
Yeah,
didn't
so
they?
So they ask him,
They're
ask
kinda
God,
right.
because these guys seem like they're coming from a different place, and they're like, we want to take our land, so go ask God. They sound like they want to do what's right. Like,
Fantastic.
Go ask God so we can take the right land that's for us, that's our inheritance, that we want to obtain for our people.
And he gives them this little message
And he
because
just
it
gives
sounds
them,
good.
yeah, he's just
Because
like,
it doesn't matter if it's not good, they'll all be dead.
The ears.
But if it is good, they'll love him.
Yeah.
He's like,
The
do what,
tickling of the ears.
no,
here.
God approves of
Yeah,
whatever decision
whatever.
you're gonna make.
Yeah, and the arrogance.
Like, there's no, I'm sure that there were, steps to take. Anytime anybody came up to a prophet and asked the prophet to ask God, the prophet would go and actually
Ask
consult
God.
with God, and then come back later,
Maybe do a
different
little
day, maybe
fasting
that
or-
same day, with a message from God.
So,
Yep.
something.
But here he's just like, they're like, hey, go consult God. And he's like, God approves of whatever you're gonna do.
That's right. He just says, he doesn't know.
He's like,
He's not ready to do this yet, is he?
no.
Hey, who else? Everybody's just making up things. And what's bizarre, I mean, they even recognize this is not right.
Yeah,
This is really weird.
yeah.
But what do? It's bizarre what they do now. And then they ask, hey, by the way, we're going to go take some land up here. Check it out, see if it's okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
good,
go ahead, take them. You got it.
Can you at least turn around and make it look like a
Right,
house?
like,
Go in peace.
Throw some dust in the air.
Yeah, do something to make it look more-
And he says, you have the Lord's, that's Lord, capital letters, Yahweh's approval, the right name,
In Jesus'
the right
name.
God.
Yeah.
So, there's the spies. 5 men are, hey, they're content with that. They depart. They came to Laish, saw the people who were in it, living in security after the manner of the Sidonians, quiet and secure, just minding their own business up there. For there was no ruler humiliating them for anything in the land. Yes, they were free. Everything was cool.
Sounds like a peaceful
nice.
people.
Exactly. And they like it that way.
Right. And what did these guys do? Come and take
They're just going to disrupt this.
Because the Levite,
Told him it was right
Yeah.
to do.
when he could have very well, if everything were right, which if everything
Right,
were
'cause,
right.
I'm not speaking to the Lord right now. Thank
Right.
you very much. Figure it out for yourself,
Yeah.
dude.
You know what? God just says, okay,
Sure.
you think it, go ahead.
I think you got
Just
it.
go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Yeah. Yeah. Romans 1, right?
That's right.
So,
7.
when they came back to the brothers, verse 8, Zora and Ashtel, their brothers, said to them, "Well, what do you report?" And they said, "Arise, let's go up against them, for we've seen the land. Behold, it's very good. And will you sit still? Do not delay to go to enter to possess the land. When you enter, you will come to a secure people with a spacious land, for God has given it into your hand, a place where there is no lack of anything that is on the earth." And they got it all up there. This is just wait for us. Then from the family of the Danites, from Zora and from Eshtaol, 600 men armed with weapons of war set out. So there is the army. They went up, camped at Kiriath Jearim in Judah. Therefore they call that place Mahanadan to this day. Behold, it is west of Kiriath Jearim. They passed from there to the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah. The church of Micah. Boy, everybody's visiting this place. This is an interesting place to go to.
So the people that these guys are about to go and just massacre, these aren't Israelites that they're about to massacre. These are different, or are they?
They're like Canaanites up there, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, 5 men, 11 through 13, just for a moment. They made their way to this Laish. This is the land that was originally promised to them. I mean, it was originally promised. Once again, you have a group of Danites stopping at Micah's home there. So 600 men, the tribe of Dan. They're armed with all sorts of weapons of war. They pass on to the hill country of Ephraim, and they're at Micah's house. One more time, Micah and Jonathan are figuring prominently in this story. And in verses 14 through 20, we're going to read of the Danite soldiers' encounter with the Levite. So, verse 14, the 5 men who went to spy out the country of Laish said to their kinsmen. So now you have the spies and the army. Do you know that there are these houses, there are in these houses an ephod and household idols and a graven image and a molten image? Did you guys know that's what they have here? And therefore consider what you should do. They turned aside there and came to the house of the young man, the Levite. You guys have got to see this place. All the soldiers, they got 600 of them out there. Check this out. Look at this. This is bizarre. The 600 men, armed with their weapons of war, who were of the sons of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. Now the 5 men who went to spy out the land went up and entered there. They'd been there before, and they took the graven image and the ephod and household idols and the molten image, everything that was there, while the priest stood by the entrance of the gate with the 600 men armed with weapons of war. There he is out there with those guys, with the army, and they're in there, those 5 guys, taking all this.
Yeah, they're robbing the place, right? Yeah.
Do what you want, guys. I'm just a priest.
Now, who was the first thief here in this story?
Micah.
Now he's the one that's getting robbed. They're thieving him. So, anyway, it says, when these went into Micah's house and took the graven image, ephod, household idols, molten image, the priest said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said to him, "Shh, put your hand over your mouth, come with us. Be to us a father and a priest." I've heard that before. They're going to steal the priest along with all the idols. They're going to take the priest too. Come on with us.
This is weird.
Is it better for you to, this is really good. These guys they're good negotiators. And I'm sure if he wouldn't have listened, they would have taken him anyway.
Yeah.
But is it better for you to be a priest in the house of one man, or to be a priest to a tribe and a family in Israel? The priest's heart was glad. Oh, he liked that. Oh, really? A whole tribe? Great. Yeah, I'm gone. Let's go. Pack the stuff up, get all the idols, and let's go. Priest's heart was glad, and he took the ephod, breastplate, the whole clothing of a priest, and household idols, and graven image, and went among the people. So he goes off with the army, and he is rejoicing.
He's like, "Love you, Dad, bye."
What a deal.
Thanks, Jesus.
So, the Danites, they loot the church of Micah. They take the implements of its church for themselves. And they even convince Micah's personal priest, Jonathan, that he would go with them, right? Micah wants to stop them now. He's got an army. How's he going to stop them? They turned, departed, and put the little ones and the livestock and the valuables in front of them. When they had gone some distance from the house of Micah, the men who were in the houses near Micah's house assembled and overtook the sons of Dan. They cried to the sons of Dan, what's going on here? Who turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter with you that you have assembled together?" And he said, "You have taken away my gods, which I made." Gods that I made. Okay, that pretty well says it all, doesn't it? And the priest, and have gone away, and what do I have besides? So how can you say to me, "What is the matter with you"? What do you mean, what's the matter with me? You took all the stuff. You took my church. You took my priest. The sons of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, or else fierce men will fall upon you, and you'll lose your life with the lives of your household." Oh. So the sons of Dan went on their way, and when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. And now that's no longer the church of Micah. It's now the church of the Danites.
Yeah.
Oh my, I'll tell you what.
What's the saying? No honor amongst thieves?
That's exactly what has happened here. Now, quite the irony. You took my gods, my priests, but he stole all of that from his mom, really, and of course she, winds up blessing him.
For it. He forgot to praise them. He should have praised the Danites for stealing.
They're good.
You know why? And you're right.
Yeah.
Because really under Deuteronomy law, with what he did and dishonoring his mom and stealing, his life should have been taken.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, kind
It's out of there.
Yeah.
Thank you, kind sirs, for living my life.
And it's like, now I have been humbled.
How'd you know that?
That was an accident.
You were right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was reading Kim Riddlebarger, who had a really good commentary and some notes on that, and that's what he was putting forth. And I go, that sounds about right. Yeah, good. But anyway, he stole from his mother, and then he gets stolen from. So the church of Micah has now been closed. This is a graphic picture of personal apostasy. And you see where that winds up there. But there's a little bit more. 27 through 31. They took what Micah had made, and the priest who had belonged to him, came to Laish, to a people quiet and secure, struck them with the edge of the sword. They burned the city with fire. There was no one to deliver them, because it was far from Sidon. They had no dealings with anyone, and it was in the valley which is near. They were by themselves out there. Sidon is a big city, and if they were linked to them, they could have gotten some help maybe, but they were easy pickings.
I feel really bad for this city. I feel really bad for these people. I mean, they're Canaanites, and the land belongs to the Danites anyway. But it's almost like, I almost want to say, couldn't they have just come in peacefully and just lived among them? But then again, they can, and they broke all their laws and rules anyway. Like, where is even carrying idols there that they're going to keep and praise probably?
It's just one bad dude affected another bunch of bad.
So they burned it, and then rebuilt it, lived in it. They called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan, their father who was born in Israel. However, the name of the city formerly was Laish. The sons of Dan set up for themselves of the graven image, and Jonathan, the son of Gershom, the son of Manasseh, he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. What that could mean is that from there on out, they were an idolatrous people. The nation not only of Dan, but the northern tribes. The 10 tribes of Israel were known. Of course, we know that ultimately whenever you have the prophets and such, and they're all warned, and by around 700 BC is whenever God sent the Assyrians to either destroy or distribute the people out elsewhere. They were an idolatrous people, and we know that they during the time of Solomon, we saw how Judah and the 10 tribes then split. But you see right there, it's very possible that phrase that we read, that he and his sons were priests to the tribe of the Danites until the day of the captivity of the land. That kind of tricky there.
Thinking about the captivity of the land, like talking about when the Babylonians came in?
The Assyrians would have come. The Babylonians come to Judah and Benjamin, the 2 southern tribes. It could mean that, or possibly it could be the Philistine captivity of the ark from Shiloh that you'll see later on in Samuel, just up ahead. So they set up for themselves Micah's graven image, which he had made all the time that the house of God was at Shiloh. So you have the true setup of the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant and everything, and that was the true God. representing him, even though there was false worship going on at least. But they set it up in contention with that. They're probably saying, we're too far away.
Yeah.
We'll make our own. But God never prescribed that. Never, ever. There's only one God. There's only one law, only one set of commands, and it's from him and not anybody else. So then that was the house of God that was at Shiloh. Here you have the house of who? Dan. House of the Danites. Apostasy for sure. The church of Micah is reopened as the church of the Danites.
Yeah, they stole his stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and then I made it a word, then worshipped it.
That's what
strange.
Micah started.
That's a strange
And
way.
they
It's a
kicked
sorry
him out.
end there,
Yeah,
what we see.
If we like your business, we're gonna take it and kick you out.
good idea.
Relocate.
Yeah, good idea. We want that for us.
Let's tie it up. Package. Let's get a package. Chapter 18 gives us a picture of apostasy. You got the whole tribe here of Dan. You have the corruption of the Levitical priesthood. The church of Micah has become the church of the Danites, which amounts to a pagan's religious shrine for a whole tribe, and an opportunist priest that looks for his own way there. You can trace his family tree back to Moses, right? What can we get out of this application here? Tragic consequences happen when the people of God, and they were part of the people of God. I'm not saying that all these people were believers, but they were representing the people of God. They forgot the ways of the Lord, and they did what was right in their own eyes. You look in the New Testament, you look at the Corinthians, there you have where a man was sleeping with his father's wife. You have people suing each other and taking them to secular courts. We were talking about that, John, and the church doesn't need to go out and have unbelievers judging the things that we should be able to do. Right. And they were making use of temple prostitutes, even, and they had divisions in the church. You see, that was going on with, were they believers at that time in Corinth? Most of them probably were.
Right.
Maybe some of them weren't. I'm not saying everybody in the church, because they go there, they're true believers, but
The apostles warned against the
sad.
people coming in to divide the church and to seduce, the people in it.
That's right.
With all kinds of,
That's right.
not just sexual, but
We're always warned of that, aren't we?
And if they don't
Always.
have leadership that says, wait a minute, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Look here, it says you can't do that.
Yeah, because even the apostle says, I'm not sure which apostle, I'm pretty sure it's the apostle Paul, but he says that he was writing letters and this church and these people weren't allowing the letters to enter in, and when he went to send people to correct them, they weren't even allowing those people in to correct them. And these group of people just kind of got a hold of the church and kept it and prevented anything from happening. Like prevented people from coming in or out, or stopping God's word from entering into it.
Absolutely. Well, I think people of God have to realize the corrosive effects of paganism or the worldly system that's around us, or don't fellowship with darkness, don't fellowship with Belial. That means unbelievers. And that doesn't mean to say that we can't witness to them or we can't talk to them and such, but we don't hang with them. We don't let them entertain us and be such a part of our lives that we start blending in and doing what they do. The whole idea is to show who Christ is in us so that they would want our kind of lifestyle. But if they drag us in to what they do, the whole purpose is defeated. So we have to be very careful in a separation, but yet being accountable in the sense that who do we witness to? To the lost. But that's the reason that we'd even want to even be with them. There are family that is lost, of course. Don't let them influence us. We need to be around them, but yet we have to influence them. Or if we don't, we get into this kind of thing. This is what happens when believers start playing and flirting with the world. We've seen it. We've seen a number of people go back to the world and doing the same thing. Were they believers? Unbelievers? I don't know. That confuses me then. Now, I would not go around saying they're unbelievers. I can't make that judgment. They sure looked like believers. They did all this, did that. Now they're doing this, which is exactly the opposite. I'm confused. I don't know. Are they really believers? I don't know their hearts. God does. I would pray if they're not, that they would be able to go back to that word. And if they are, that they would go back to the word and live that way. We're too prone, though, all of us, to do things right in our own eyes. Whatever's right in our own eyes. To cover up things and to make it be something that we justify. That's really not justified. Our conduct should be appropriate to our profession of faith, shouldn't it? You know what? Despite it all, even when we are sinners, even when we do sin, when we are God's, the whole idea is not to make you doubt your salvation, but to remember the promise of God. Remember the promise of the covenant. And remember God when he says, I will be your God and you will be my people. That's what he said to them. That's what he says to us. We're his sons, we're his daughters. And what it is, it's not our performance, but it is what Jesus has done. So it's a work salvation. Only on Christ's work. It's definitely not ours. And so therefore, it's all based upon that. It takes us back to the cross. And the whole idea is saying, you know what? I'm forgiven. I've been graced. And that's why we want to serve him. And not to forget the good news or to remember it. We too can be idolaters at heart. But if we keep Christ at the center of our thinking, the center of our lifestyles, always being reminded by each other. We need to be reminded. And as that happens, then we don't turn into like what Israel did in those days.
We said our work salvation, our work is obedience to him. That's our work.
Because of Christ. Christ alone. And he puts that in us to do that. We want to do. We want to be obedient. We don't want to be like these guys, which I think for the most part were apostates. Apostatize means to actually identify with a group of people, for instance, as the church, and to be like right in the middle of it, and then to actually stand against it, to turn against it. Like they turned against by even breaking the first two commandments, which is about God. And all the other things.
Those guys thought they were so much better than Micah. When they took all that stuff and they set it up for the whole community, I mean, they were way better than Micah. I'm sure they felt good. They were feeling good about it.
But he must have had a good idea, huh?
We've done.
Yeah. It blows my
Woo.
brain trying to figure out what they were thinking. Yeah, but I've already got it. He's selfish. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just like figured out all I got is that
Yeah,
what
he was doing it all wrong.
Yeah,
He
he's
should
selfish.
open up for everybody like
That's
we
right.
did.
He's being so selfish,
Good.
arrogant, can't stand people like that. Let's take it all. Yeah, that's kind of about yeah.
Quite another story, wasn't
Oh my
it?
God.
Wow.
How up to date is the Bible?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Over 3,000 years ago? Hey, John, would you mind leading us in prayer as we close out tonight? Be okay? Thanks.
Lord, as we ponder what we've heard from your word tonight, certainly we think of current events and what we've seen throughout the world, really throughout history. We see that there's nothing new under the sun, that men's hearts are wicked, and that we create idols, we chase after vain and foolish things. So that we also examine ourselves and guard ourselves from these type of things that transpire in our lives and all around. May we not give in to idols, maybe not be prone to not trust in you, to rather trust in people and devices of our own imagination. And may we take heed strongly of your word you have left with us. So many, not just lessons, but instructions and direction. And may it make us wise to act and do what we know we should in accordance with your will. We do thank you that you have given us your word, and thank you that you bless us, and pray that you will protect us and that we will keep our eyes open, our ears open, seek your face each and every day. In Jesus' name.
Amen.